COVID-19 was first discovered in Wuhan, China in December 2019. In a matter of months, it has spread into a global pandemic, causing 15 million confirmed cases and 630,000 deaths worldwide. So how exactly did the pandemic affect the international community?
COVID-19 has made our society come to a standstill. Masks have become an absolute necessity. A large portion of in-person human activities, such as taking school classes or working, have moved entirely online, and large social gatherings, including church services, are now legally prohibited. Furthermore, panic has induced a loss of morality. Some have used this pandemic for personal gain by hoarding essential supplies, and blatant xenophobia along with racism is widely prevalent. Moreover, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, the international sporting event that symbolizes peace and solidarity, has been delayed, depressing citizens and athletes worldwide. As the pandemic kept people at home, it has constrained the domestic economy. The first to suffer were the self-employed workers and small businesses. Subsequently, larger businesses such as the tourism and airline industry were hit. Moreover, even major companies are either temporarily closed or completely bankrupt. And all of this, in combination, has led to high unemployment rates, burdening working-class families and the broader public. Spreading even further, the simultaneous slowdown of domestic economies led to the decline of the world economy. It's a perfect storm. Stock markets, oil prices, GDP outlook, and all sorts of statistics aren't looking so good. Adding on top of that, China had to shut down a significant portion of its factories, causing an immediate worldwide supply shock. To make things even worse, the ongoing US-China trade war is aggravating existing complications. Thus, countries that were economically dependent on the US and China will maneuver to decouple from the G2 economy and diversify trade partners, so we can expect a restructuring of the global value chain that will mitigate economic uncertainties to some degree.
Moving on, the pandemic has caused mayhem in politics. The COVID-19 pandemic has strengthened executive power. Dictatorships are weaponizing this pandemic to fulfill their malicious ambitions. And even for liberal democracies, government surveillance for contact tracing and immediate access to private information have raised concerns. Citizens worldwide heavily criticized the government's inadequate response to the pandemic. So, to recover favorable public opinion and solidarity, governments propagate a nationalistic narrative. And it works. They started to implement nationalistic policies, and these policies collectively cohere into a worldwide trend of isolationism, reinforced by recent limitations of international institutions. China received international backlash after its problematic response during the early stages of the pandemic and other issues like Hong Kong. And the US and prominent European countries held China responsible by implementing hardline policies and sanctions. But surprisingly, China has weathered the storm. While the West is still struggling to contain the virus, China has already normalized its economy. Further, China is contesting American influence in developing countries and the controversial World Health Organization by providing medical and financial aid. This means that we're beginning to win this competition not only in economic and political conflict, but also in the global containment efforts. The pandemic has aggravated the current state of affairs and vice versa. Unless we can fundamentally resolve the underlying structural issues, the societal, economic, and political effects will resonate for the time being. So how should we respond to the current situation? As individuals, the best we can do is to follow government guidelines. By maintaining personal hygiene and complying with social distancing measures, we can mitigate the social ramifications to some degree. What governments and institutions can do is optimize public health systems and develop a vaccine. It will save lives and put an end to the entire pandemic. Further, businesses will be able to reopen, increasing economic activity within borders to some degree. However, these measures cannot put an end to the broader implications. In a time where the global containment effort has been politicized by the Sino-American rivalry, we need a political solution that corresponds to the current state of international relations. To do this, the European Union and Middle Powers must exercise balanced diplomacy. Europe is a political ally of the US while economically acquainted with China. They have the ability and justification to mediate between the two colossi and minimize negative externalities. Then, we can reach a politico-economic equilibrium and facilitate multilateral cooperation in this time of crisis.
This is a war on two fronts, one against the virus and one against ourselves. Even a single life lost is too many, but hundreds of thousands have perished in pain. Now is the time to put down immediate confrontations and fight together against the COVID-19 pandemic.